Greetings, everybody. Welcome to the Rec Center Show on KSCW 103.1 FM. Your host, Gary Cohen, and our special guest today, Mr. Jim Sloan, the president of the governing board of the Rec Centers of Sun City West. Jim, welcome back. Our first show with you of the new year.
Good morning to you, too, Gary. It's good to be here.
Well, here we are. We are in the new year, and, the future is almost here. Your future, a big change in your life. But
Yes.
Before that, you've done a lot of work regarding the next wave for the governing board. So why don't you update us as to where things are at?
Well, we worked very hard this year with an election committee that was intent on making sure we had enough candidates to actually have an election, and that did not turn out to be the case. But we do have three incredibly talented ladies running, have been accepted onto the board, have qualified, and are going to come onto the board in July. And they are Roberta Davidson, who is a longtime resident of Sun City West and past president of Boomers Club. We have Ann Brown, who's a friend of mine that we ride bikes together and we have a good time, former CFO of a hospital in Missouri. And then another one, Sharon Heddick, who's a longtime resident of Sun City West, but also a very voluminous activist in the community, and so she's very interested in serving. I met with them yesterday for a couple hours. We just talked about processes and what to expect and how to do those things. And I'm very impressed, and I'm sad that I will not be working with these ladies because I think that they're going to be dynamic, and I'm very much looking forward. We will not have an election this year, which is a sad thing for me. I think that we lose something when we don't have an election. But we just didn't have more candidates come forth than we had as three. So we'll go with what we have and be thankful for the three. I don't know that we would have gotten better had we had an election. We have three great candidates, and I'm very pleased with what's going on.
To help new residents learn how this all works, you have a vice president now. Does that mean that George will move into your role, or is that a different kind of process?
No, it's a completely different process. Each year we decide, the board votes for itself for president, vice president, secretary, and treasurer, and that will occur at our April meeting, April 23rd. It's kind of an interesting process. There's three of us that are going off the board, myself and Brian Wallace and Tim Hurley, who we've served our 3-year term. And we will leave the platform at that time. The incoming three ladies that I just mentioned will take our places on the platform. And the secretary of the board, who is currently Sue Fitzsimon, will start the process with election of the president. And it's anybody's guess who that might be. I know some folks are thinking that they would like to be president, and it could be. And then once the president is elected, the president-elect takes responsibility for the meeting and conducts the rest of the election, which is vice president and secretary and treasurer. So that's the process. Then those people are seated in July. It takes place in April for the president and the board to get stuff in place, things in place like committee assignments and training. Those kinds of things start happening fairly rapidly after that, because April and May and June are gone pretty fast, and there you are in July. You're in charge, and it's a big deal to not be prepared.
And of course, you're taking charge in July at a time when it's technically off season, but more and more people are here year round.
Boy, no kidding. And there's a lot of stuff that has to happen. A lot of things have to happen prior to the fall. So that all transpires in summer. I worked through the summers, both summers that I've been president, and felt like I was accomplishing a lot of things that were in place, so I didn't have to scramble so badly in fall time. So there's a lot to do, and the board does not really take vacations. We're dark for 2 months, but the board is working during that time with preparations for training. Those kinds of things happen.
Sounds like you have the kind of team where everybody has each other's back. It's a true team.
I think so. The board. This board that we have now is a good board. We have a lot of votes of 8-1, 7-2, those kinds of votes. So it means that I think we're mostly on the same page. Sometimes it's something minor that makes a difference in our opinion, but there's 9 of us, and so to get things done, there has to be collaboration, there has to be agreement on where to go next. And I think we have a good team now. I think the acclimation process for a new board member takes about a year to figure out really what's going on. And the second year is when the productivity really starts to happen better than the first year. So, yeah, I think we're okay. I think it's going to be fine. With these new folks coming in, there's going to be a different energy. You're losing 3 men, gaining 3 women. That's going to change the dynamics of the board from to 5 women and 4 men, which is a different dynamic than we've had in the past. So we'll see how it works, and I think it's going to be fine. It's going to be fun to watch from sidelines.
Kind of a mirror of what happened in Washington with a lot of women who got elected into Congress, a couple of years ago, right?
So it changes the dynamics. And somebody pointed out, one of the candidates pointed out yesterday that I asked, how do you think this is going to impact the board? And one of the comments was, I think we're going to find agenda items different than we have in the past. And what does that mean? Well, we're going to think different things are important than the men do. All right, that's good. I'll buy that one. And I think that was a good insight on the thing, and not being sexist at all, but just being world views and point of references, those kinds of things. So I'm pleased. I'm excited about it.
And I'm sure you regularly had input from your other half.
Never happens in my house. I'm in charge until I go home, and then I get to be second fiddle until Barbara says, "Okay, you're first again."
There you go. There you go. Well, obviously, the new board is part of the future, and on the subject of future reserves, how are we looking?
Well, there's two big things. The board is responsible for long-range planning, and we looked this year. One of the goals that we made for the board was to look objectively and strategically at our reserve study. Just a quick background. A reserve study was established about 15 years ago, started 15 years ago, and it's in place to eliminate the need for a special assessment of us owner members. Because if we've got a big problem, we don't have any money, we don't have anywhere else to go except assessment of owner members. So it started using surplus funds from the yearly budgets. So in the past 10 years since I've been watching this, it's about anywhere between $500,000 to $1.5 million a year. So it's grown pretty well to about $26 million at this point. That's being managed by Vanguard Financial right now, and the Budget and Finance Committee monitors and oversees that process for the board. And the question became, how much is enough money in that fund? And so we have undergone a study this past year, and we will be presenting the results of that. And we're kind of changing our thinking from a number of 70%, which gets bantied about, and that means 70% of our needs are funded in this reserve study, to a range of risk, because we've got some things coming up that are fairly substantial. For example, golf courses infrastructure, the irrigation systems on all 7 golf courses are over 30 years old. Now, the life expectancy is under about 20 years old. So we're playing rolling the dice here, but we're fixing them as they go along. Those are all going to have to be done. The cost of those are between $4 and $5 million per course. So you add that, multiply that times 7, that's more money than we have. And that would also say that we can't fix roofs, we can't do air conditioners, we can't do parking lots, we can't do any of those things, or build anything new or update anything. So we've got to do some planning here, and that's the reserve study. So we're looking at that. We're going to have on the 17th, this was broadcast after that 17th happens, but we're going to hear from staff what their plans are for the reserve study and how we're going to implement these things. The thing that is also driving that, the golf especially, is what the regional plan for water is a big deal. We water 1 million gallons per day per course. So 7 million gallons of water go onto our turf. We're being told that it would be smart for us to reduce our turf by 30%, which would be a big deal. How do we do that? And that will impact our reserve study as well. So all that collates together, into a plan which will be presented on the 17th. So that will be news by the time your listeners hear this. So we've been working hard on those things, and I think that we've got a good handle on it. I think that for the future, that's going to be a big deal. There's a lot of needs in Sun City West to update, modernize, keep going. We're competing for buyers right now with brand new projects around planned communities. We are selling houses as quickly as they go on the market, so we're in a very strong position that way. But unless we keep going, modernizing and updating, that's not going to be the continued situation. Now, I have to say that staff is also undergoing a community master plan for planning what to do next. How do we keep updating, and how do we manage all this process? So there's a lot going on right now, a lot of moving parts in Sun City West, and I think that we're in very, very strong position. We're debt free. We have money in reserves, but we do have all these needs coming at us right around the corner, and the next 5 years are critical for our success.
Absolutely, and look at what's been done already. You look around, even just in the 2 years that I've been living here, the new that's here.
Yes.
There's so much that's happened. The upgrades to all the rec centers.
Right.
You know, the expansion of the dog track. Right. Right. I mean, everything. The tennis courts. There's a lot that's happened already.
I agree, and we're trying to be. It's a balance, Gary, between the folks that have lived here for 25 years and want to do things, and the new folks that are coming in and have different desires. And so we call it the demographic tension. And pickleball is growing exponentially, and they told me the other day that they're expecting to go another 0.25%, 25% more than they have now, and they're already at 1,500 people. They're already at the largest club in town. Boomers is another one with 1,500. Right. Between them, they've got 3,500 members, something like that. We never envisioned that. So how do we accommodate that and give them what they need to really be successful while taking care of the folks that are not doing as well as many as there used to be in the old days?
Absolutely. Well, you still have half a year.
I do.
To go.
I do.
At what stage, or have you even thought about, the legacy factor? There's so much that you have accomplished, and yet there's still time. There may still be that thing that happens between now and the summer that would be the crowning. But have you identified in your mind what stands out to you as what you're leaving behind for everybody?
Well, that's an interesting question, because I have about 5 months left to go, something along those lines. And it's hard not to be a lame duck, because life's going to go on after I leave the board July, and I want to not make decisions that are going to adversely impact the future leadership. I need to help them make better decisions. But so I'm trying not to quit, but at the same time be aware that I'm not going to be here. So it's really kind of a tension in my head that I know I'm not going to be here, so why work so hard? Well, on the other hand, I need to work hard because that's who I am and what I want to do. But to answer your other question, what the legacy of it, I think that I came at a very fortuitous time in our history. When I took my presidency in July of whatever this is 18, I think. Mm-hmm. And when I took presidency, Mike Whiting announced almost immediately that he was going to retire after 15 years. Mike was not in great health. And so by the bylaws, I initiated a search, and we took 6 months to find us a candidate that was worthy of what we thought we needed here. And we interviewed, we had 110 applicants. We interviewed 16 of them, narrowed it down to 3, interviewed 3, and hired Bill Schwind. Bill Schwind has turned out to be a home run, in my opinion. Bill doesn't let a lot of grass grow under his feet. He moves on stuff. He is aware of how things need to be done, and he gets them done. I've viewed him as a great developer of people and staff, and loves his people. His people love him. And I think that's probably the crown in the star in my crown, or the jewel in my crown, as they would say. with that allowed us to do a lot of other things. And as a partnership with the board, staff has worked to get stuff done like the guest policy renewed into, so we can actually get into the pool next month in March. The clubs, the visitor policy, the space utilization, these things that we're talking about, the water and the reserve study, those all play into Bill Schwinn being in that seat and moving us forward in a way that's really productive. So he and I have been partners for this last year. He's just celebrating a year this month.
Right.
And I get to do his review, by the way, because I don't know if people know that Bill Schwinn, the general manager, reports to the president of the board. And everybody else in the place except our assistant reports to Bill, but he reports to me. And so that's an interesting partnership that we have. And so I think he's probably the legacy that I would like to be proudest of.
And of course, when it's time for you to pass the torch, it'll be important, the relationship that you've had with him, it'll be important that who's ever next in your chair have that kind of incredible relationship, right?
I agree, and I hope so. And I think that Bill is personable enough and insightful enough to make that happen. I think he can handle himself pretty well.
Good stuff. Is there anything that you would like to add? I know you and I are going to be talking, in the months ahead.
Sure.
Is there any message for the new year that you'd like to tell the community?
Well, we're coming into the busiest time of our year. February, March, April are the busy times. And I really encourage us to be patient with each other because there's more people in our facilities. The clubs are full. The pools are going to be full. The streets are full. Everything is full right now. We just need to take a big breath and be patient and remember that we're all here for retirement, not here to get someplace in a hurry.
Absolutely. Mr. Jim Sloan, president of the governing board of the Rec Centers of Sun City West, has been our special guest on the Rec Center here, the Rec Center Show, on KSCW 103.1 FM. As always, Jim, we thank you so much.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.